Welcome to the CommanderSmiths.
We are the CommanderSmiths.
I'm Adam Smith.
And I'm Larry Smith.
Don't worry.
We're cousins.
And this is motherfucking episode 200. Woo!
I mean, it doesn't have to be a motherfucking. It's just episode 200, right?
Episode
it's not a big. Is it a big deal? Is it a big?
It is. It's numbers. It's two of them, and then it's the even ones. You know, it's 2 zeros. And,
Yes, I get excited. I'll be excited on 202, 204, 206 because they're all even.
That is. No. You know why this is an awesome episode is because we have a special guest that is joining us today.
Yeah,
so
that's
how awesome it is. It's
200,
and we got Mr. Dana Roach that has joined us. He's from EDH Retcast, and he's also from CMDR Central. Both are freaking fantastic casts, and we have...
He writes. He knows how to write.
What?
Not just spell check. He knows how to write.
You know, I was at number 2's surprise birthday. Oh, way to show up, Lowry. You douchebag. Just,
Oh, good for you.
I'm sorry, number 2.
And the thing that's sad is we played a game that's kind of like Cards Against Humanity, but it's with memes and stuff.
Okay.
The sad part is the kid can't even read, made it into real life. Like I'm reading my card and I misspeak, and then number 2 goes, kid can't even read. I'm like, you fucker.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, fantastic.
He doesn't even listen. I think he just...
Number 2 listens. He listens.
I think we swear we at least swore too much. I don't know if we swear as much anymore.
Sure we do. Fuck.
Yeah.
There's our quota.
Let's make sure.
I'll beep all those.
Why did you use all those? Yeah, beep them. Thank you.
On our 200th episode too. Damn it. You don't even know how much Dana swears. It's friggin' ridiculous.
He's a sailor. He just... I don't know. Not really. Yeah. He seems like a good guy. He was fun to talk with. We pre-recorded. We're gonna I'm not just fucking thinking in the future here.
Yeah, we already recorded, so now we're recording this.
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to play along and be like, well, I wonder what's gonna happen in this episode.
I wonder. It was a fantastic conversation.
Yes, very good. We also do a little rendition on Stump the Smith where it's a competition.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive who wins on this one. So it's Dana battling Lowry, and both are very impressive. We'll say that the least. They just keep listening. So we got that coming up. We do have something we have to open because one of our patrons, Gwen, gave us a gift to open on our 200th episode. You got it, Lowry? We're supposed to open at the same time. So we're supposed to open package number 1. So thank you, Gwen, for...
Yeah, thank you. That I'm interested.
Yes.
I have headphones on, so I can't really hear, so I don't know why I'm shaking.
I'm opening mine.
Okay. All right. I won't look.
Oh, man. Well, wait a second. It's just packaged in this. There's no way it's actually a secret layer. There's no way it's a secret layer. It's packaged in... Oh, still in the box of that.
It feels heavy. Heavy.
Oh, nice.
Hold on.
You aren't there yet?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, there's some packs in here, buddy. And there's a poop.
Hold on. My packs are open.
Yours are open?
Yeah.
Oh, they are open. Mine is open too. One of mine is open. What is that one? It's the Crimson. She took the good cards out of it. Did you get a little poop?
Oh, sure. You got poop. I got toilet. I got toilet paper.
Thank you.
I don't know what that means. Awesome. I'm sure that means something though.
We have to open the one that's open because is there a reason why that one's open?
I mean,
it has a little note inside of it.
Let's see here.
I
hope it's something to pit us against each other. All right.
It's are you gonna read yours first? Or are you just gonna giggle?
All right. So it says, Lowry, I was going to give you a collector's booster of Crimson Vow, but then I decided to open it instead and give you this crap.
That's what mine says too.
Love Mama Magic, Gwen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty funny.
That is fantastic. And then there's I got a signed Mama Magic Gwen shenanigans. Oh, come on. She's doing the shenanigans because of Stump the Smith Savant.
Yeah, and that's the one that she's calling shenanigans on. I remember that. I'll play that one.
Hey, Crashing Drawbridge. That's a fantastic
did
card.
we get the same cards too? Did she do that?
Did you
Falcon
get
Wrath
the...
Celebrants next?
Yes, got that one next.
Okay, so Shambling Suit.
Nope, mine's Gem of Becoming.
Gross.
Ooh, I got a foil Gore Clan Rampager.
I love this
There
card.
might be some...
I got
Is
it.
that what you
This is a
got too?
promo version, yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
Volcanic Salvo. I just fucking bought this.
Nice. Ooh, dude, Vexing Shusher.
You got a Vexing Shusher? Shusher?
Yeah.
I got
In foil. Just kidding,
Gadrak.
that's not... Oh, that's one of your bad boys.
I love Gadrak.
Sethron, the Minotaur. So I made that Minotaur, tried to make that Minotaur deck.
Nice. Scholar of the Lost Trove. I don't know what that is. I don't buy much.
Oh, dude, I got a full art foil Mysterious Blood Illness with the alt art.
I don't know that one, but I did.
Oh, it's from the new set.
Yeah. I don't know
you
the
got
cards
two.
very well yet. It just came out like a month ago.
And
But
Mina
yeah, this one's
Harker.
garbage.
Oh, dude, full art there too with the alt art, the
I
skin
got
on
Quincy
it.
Harker.
Nice.
I don't know which one that is, but yeah. Dook, dook.
Splendid Reclamation. I didn't realize that was in this set. Full art of that guy.
Yeah, no, that's gorgeous. I got
Yeah.
a Disorder in the Court.
Oh, nice. You just spec'd on
Full
that
art?
card too.
I did.
Yeah, and then I got full art Creepy Puppeteer with foil.
Oh.
Foil.
Very cool. Graph Reaver, full art foil.
Jeez, hooking us up,
Yeah.
Gwen.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking A. I know it's after this one. Full art Dig Up foil.
Mhm. Nice. I got a full art foil Demonic Bargain. I don't even know this one yet, but it looks cool.
I got.
I think
my
this is,
greatest spec of all time. The Tali Primal Storm, and it's the one that I said the spec on too with the promo pack with the
Yep.
symbols and all.
Oh,
that
she's
crap
listening.
on
She's
the-
paying
yeah.
attention. I got a Karin Scion of
You son
Urza.
of a
Yeah,
bitch.
that one's good.
Son of a bitch.
What?
Oh, that's good. I love it.
That's
This
awesome.
Makes me smile. We have one more gift open. I don't want to open the other legends. We'll open those later and share those on Twitter and Discord and all
Maybe
that
we
stuff.
just
But
do
two
it next
Commanders
episode?
legends. Oh yeah, we could do
What'd you
that.
get?
Same one.
Okay.
But we have another package to open, buddy.
We do. We should get to that. Make sure. I enjoyed the curated pack. All right, so
That was pretty good. All right, so picture.
Lowry,
Well,
number
I'm
2,
assuming it's a
open
picture.
this on cast number 200. Fragile.
That's how I would read. Ooh, oh yeah!
What is
It's my favorite GIF
getting?
that she posts all the time. It's the huge boobs gal.
Oh my!
Yeah! Wait, where's the hello boobies? I need to get over to that really quick. Oh damn!
Hello, boobies.
Thank you. Look
She
at
enjoys
that.
posting this GIF, and they jiggle
And
back and
every-
forth.
Every time she posts it, I just stop and stare. I'm like, this is very nice.
All the chatter stops on
Yeah.
Discord, and it just is like, I like this GIF. I like this.
Thank you, Gwen. That is awesome. What did you have there, Larry?
I got-
love this.
Blue Eyes White Dragon. This was congrats on
Stump
number
the
200. Yeah, so this was April Fool's Stump the Smith from
Yeah.
Gwen last year, or I guess last
This year,
April.
but
So
almost
very
last
fun.
year.
Now I've actually seen the card at this point. I don't I've never seen it before.
I should note at the bottom. Will you see that?
Not
Not Gwen. It's pointing
mean-
to the boobs. Gwen likes to joke that she doesn't have boobs. So yeah, this is gonna be distracting. I don't think I can keep going because I kind of want this behind, so I'm always looking at.
This will never show up on video because it's just in front of you above the camera.
Let's see if I can just have this sitting here. People are.
What is it, a parrot?
Yeah, it's on my shoulder. People, we're gonna get a ton of downloads now because people are just gonna click to see her just sitting
I
there.
hope you should make that the thumbnail. Oh, but
Yeah.
we got Dana on this week.
Yeah, I can't have this
Oh,
as
no.
a thumbnail. But thank you, Gwen. This is awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much.
I'm like actually get like smiling ear to ear with this. It's pretty awesome. All right. So how do we recover from that? I
don't
can't
know.
recover from boobies. Hello, boobies. All right. So
How do we
Thank you, Gwen.
transition this?
okay.
don't know.
So we already kind of talked about what we're going to be talking about. Yeah. Some other things. So we're at episode 200. There are some changes that are brewing here. What is going to happen in the year 2022? Lowry's going to start picking up, doing some live stream and stuff when he's working on what
decks.
is it just Spotlight deck in a way. This is where that's going to kind of take that place.
I mean, I think
Kind of.
Spotlight's going to have its own thing, but I want to just like, since I'm building decks, I might as well sit down and kind of stream it, have conversations if people want to have conversations. And if not, I'll just fucking build decks. Like,
Right. That's what you like to do anyway.
Kind of have the point is like, I'm doing Magic stuff. If people want to watch me do Magic stuff, then you can. And if not, then okay.
Yeah.
That's fine too. Like I'm doing it anyway. I'm doing it for the enjoyment of the game and for you guys.
Why not just flip on the camera and have a conversation if anybody wants to jump on there.
Yeah.
You're just holding up your toilet paper? Is that all you're going to do the whole time?
I got a little bit of...
I can't rub my poop on my face. That poop is for Gwen's vote on the one poop vote. And then what else are we doing? We're going to be kind of expanding onto other platforms as well. We have some ideas of what's going to happen here, but also in our prize giveaways, we purchased a certain card, a lot of them, because Keldron, or I always like to say Keldron, but it's Keldon.
Keldon
right?
Warlord. Yep.
Keldon Warlord is going to be included with any prize that we give away, and it'll be signed by both of us, and probably a little cross off on the name and saying, what, as good as is what you said, as good as
Gaia's Cradle. Because that's what we started off with. Adam gave me a ton of shit. That's how he stole my Gaia's Cradle when we were kids.
Stole?
Yeah.
How dare you?
That's how it's escalated.
How dare you,
and,
sir?
So, I mean, everybody wants a little Keldon Warlord in their life.
Say what? All right, so that is one thing we'll be giving out. That's just a little prize thing, but there's a lot of changes, not changes necessarily. We're just doing some expansions to stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to be getting out there really after the new year. As I mentioned, let's get into the tags here. First off, if you want to become a patron, like our new patron, we have Little Orphan Animar.
Welcome to a meat forest.
That sounds like a fairy tale of a meat forest.
You could become a patron like Little Orphan Animar. That's the name. Thank you for becoming a patron, by the way. By just giving $1 a month gets you in the Discord. That's how you can support the show. $5 or more gets you into the different levels, the tiers to get proxies, the common, the uncommon, the rare, the mythic level. Also gets you foils as you get to a certain level. So if you wanted to pick foil proxies, which look fucking fantastic, that gets you there. The free way to support the show is to jump on YouTube and subscribe. That's all you gotta do, subscribe. Then the next thing, if you really want to be nice, maybe watch a few things. Some things like our bi-weekly, which I was vindicated this week. Did you see that?
But also not.
I know at the same time.
Okay, so bi-weekly means twice a week or every other week. It has two meanings, and it was both of what we were wondering what it was happening. It meant both.
All of
words
which
are dumb.
I never looked up the definition. It was Renshai was just like, Adam, actually, it's every other week. And I was just like, shit. And I was like, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. Did the whole, Happy Gilmore. I'm smart, or you're smart. I'm stupid.
Yeah.
You're good looking. I'm really ugly. And meanwhile, I'm like sitting in the shower going, it doesn't make sense. Like bi is 2 and weekly. So you put them together and it's like twice a week. And I just don't get it. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember who all jumped in, but then there were multiple people who were like, actually, bi-weekly is this. I think Guy jumped in there. I think there was a bunch of people who were just like, it's actually both meetings. And then I gave Renshai a double middle finger. I was like, fuck you. Yeah, I was right. Yeah. But I didn't ever look it up. I never looked it up. But anyways, bi-weekly, we get Curated MTG. And what was our Curated MTG from Monday of this week?
Temporal Extortion. It's taking an extra turn in black for 4 black. And if anybody actually could pay half their life to counter that spell, and you can even pay half your life to
If you want.
if it's in theme.
Yeah.
So
In
cool
theme.
card. Check it out.
I liked Bill actually, like Bill from Woodbury posted like all the things that have 4 black or more and like all what they it just was kind of an interesting.
Half of them are really bad.
Yeah. I really
The other
like
half
B.
is really
What is
cool.
it? Big, really? What is it? Big fucking monster? B.
Big furry
FM?
monster. It's BFM. Yeah.
That's right.
Unsets. Yeah.
Did you know what the casting cost on that bad boy is?
Was it like 10 black?
It's 15.
That's a lot of. That's
Yeah,
a lot.
That's why I needed 2 cards. And that's the preset to like that's what the unsets are, is like testing out real cards, because then they made real cards later that were combined cards.
True.
The
True
melding
enough.
stuff. So.
True enough.
Okay, back to it. So that was curated on Monday. You can check that out. Every Monday and Friday we have curated MTG. There is also Breakpoint videos, which will be out with secret layers. I stopped at the Commander one because there's just so many that was in this last one, but the Commander one was the best one in this recent secret layer, and actually might be done pretty soon.
One more week.
One more week.
Yep.
So check those videos out. You can also check out Proxy Time. This last week was a special Proxy Time. I did all 10, and this is live, all 10 Shocklands in the Wombo art. So I generated a couple of those. Some of them I did live, but I'd never used the ones live because it takes a while to find some really good ones. It does some really cool art, but to figure out what I wanted to do with that, I used ones that I had pre-generated. So that's a really cool video. Check that out, 7:30. Not the rest of the year. I'm kind of done taking a break, taking vacation, so that's all finished there. Another thing you see there is our podcast. Like if you want to watch us, go on there. You can see us when we talk about cards. Dana is going to be on. You see his sexy face there. So check that out. Check on YouTube. I expect the YouTube numbers to just skyrocket because it said Dana's sexy face is going to be on,
We're going to have at least 10 listeners on YouTube now. You froze.
Hey, what's with... Oh, damn it. Why is it doing that again? Yay, 200th episode.
It's a callback to when we had shitty like computer stuff all the time.
All right. So if you're watching on YouTube, my camera just froze, and it does that at the end. Hey, if you want to watch another freezing point, watch when we're talking with Dana in a little bit here. Mine freezes in the last like 2 minutes. Yeah, it just freezes. So now I'm on my computer. Hey guys. All right. So that is the free way to support our show. Check out YouTube, subscribe there, chat with us there, all that fun stuff. You can also go to Twitter, and that's where you can find us and see all the videos we tweet or all the voting that we do, and direct message us, or you can direct message us at CommanderSmiths@gmail.com. All right. Well, that should do it. And now we're going to bring in Dana to talk about, what are we going to talk about, Larry?
There's a lot of stuff we talk about. We kind of meander. So enjoy.
The greatest performer ever to have graced this earth.
Dana Roach.
I like it. I'm into that.
Do you know?
I'm gonna have to use that for EDH Recast from now on. After this new intro, I think.
We'll send you the button.
Yeah. You know what that's from, Dana? Actually, like that's from.
I don't.
That's the Will Ferrell, James Lipton skit that he used to do on SNL.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I was gonna try to cut that all up, and I don't know if you were able to hear it because it's through my buttons. But yes, we are joined by Dana Roach, who is in multiple casts. I don't know how you do 2 casts. I mean, we do one, and we're just losing our minds.
Is the key,
yeah.
I think.
So you are. Well, tell us what cast you are. I don't need to go with that.
EDH Recast, and I'm on a show called Commander Central.
Yep. So those go weekly, right? I mean,
They both go weekly, yeah. And I write for EDH Rec, and I write for Commander's Herald, so I stay pretty busy.
Jeez.
I can't even write notes. I don't know how you do like full on articles. So like Adam has to be like, okay, can you text me what that picture says?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm somebody, I get 6 hours of sleep a night. I'm not someone who gets 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who does?
I tend to be up till 10 till 12 or 1 in the morning most nights anyway.
Okay.
Might as well do something semi-productive versus just playing video games all the time, which I do plenty of anyway.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Lucky.
I just but I just have time. It's just the way my kind of clockwork. So my son, you know, I've got a kid.
I was about to
like,
say you have a kid, yeah.
I have a kid, but he's 14 now. So like my parenting's
That's not
pretty,
a kid.
Yeah, parenting's pretty like at this point, you know, the intervention I'm responsible for is much less than it was 10 years ago. So I just have time.
When does it get easy with kids?
The moment I remember like being a like light switch moment was when he was able to get his own breakfast on Saturday mornings.
Yes.
When I could sleep in. That was a moment when like he was like 7-ish at that point. I didn't feel guilty about sleeping in till like 9 on a Saturday or 10
just go
on a
watch
Saturday.
cartoons or your iPad. Yeah. Just go turn that on and you can get yourself food. Yeah, that's we're getting to that point, but
mine's 4 and I'm gonna start pushing it. Get some bread.
So
wipe it on the floor.
We need to get to know you a little bit, because I know most of our audience probably know about you, but maybe not all of them. But like you said, you're on the two EDH. They're both EDH focused podcasts. But when did you get into Magic, and when did you get into Commander specifically?
So I played way back in the day. When I was in high school, I had a friend who was a year or two older than me who went off to college and came back with like revised edition cards. So like that was basically when revised was hitting. So he came back with revised stuff and had some Arabian Nights and Antiquities cards mixed in, because that just wasn't a big deal at the time, and got us all playing that summer. So summer before I went to college. So, you know, everyone went out and we were like able to buy revised packs at a few places in town anyway. So I started playing then, and I played up through, I want to say Ice Age-ish or so. And I had then like gone back and picked up a couple boxes, and I had I had real cards.
Oh,
yeah,
you did.
Like that was like legit stuff at the time. Like, man, these are like $70 cards.
Yeah,
that was a big deal.
Oh, for sure.
I remember driving to meet a dude that I made a deal with on Usenet at the time, which was like the internet. That's what it was. To buy a Mox Pearl, and I can't remember what I paid. I paid him like $40 for it or something.
Oh my gosh!
And I was physically sick to my stomach afterwards. Like, I can't believe I just spent $40 on this card.
Isn't that ridiculous?
And now you're talking about cocaine.
Yeah, yeah. So like the drive home, I was like, that's insane.
Why did I do
sweats
that?
Ill. Yeah.
Now wait. The big question is do you still have those?
So what happened was then in college, I had a roommate that kind of lost his mind, had a nervous breakdown, and stole everyone's stuff. So he stole all my cards and like hawked them at a pawn shop and that kind of thing. Which at the time, again, like I'm out $1,000 or whatever it wound up being in total cards, which sucked. And it was enough to make me quit playing. I'm like, I'm just done. I'm not going to like recollect those cards. I'm just going to retire. It was worse. One of the other friends, he actually opened a bunch of credit cards in another guy's name and like racked up like $20,000 in credit card debt in one of our roommates. So I guess grand scheme of things, it could have been worse.
I hope your friend stopped doing credit cards then as well.
Yeah, that was. I'm still friends with the guy who got hit with a credit card debt. The other dude wanted him going to jail. So then I was done. I'm like, I'm not going to play anymore. So I quit playing then until roughly Return to Ravnica, and I had a coworker who played. And I knew he played, and he kept being like, and at some point I'd mentioned I used to play. So he was constantly like, hey, give it a try. Come on back. It's still a fun game. And eventually, I think the iPad iPhone had a version of Magic, Duel of the Planeswalkers, I want to say.
I think I remember that.
A real limited version. Yep. So I installed that over like Christmas at some point, and then bought a couple packs of Return to Ravnica, and I think Gate Crash was the set after that. So I bought a few packs, and back in the day when I used to play, we played like kind of a homebrew version of EDH anyway. We didn't have commanders. We played like Highlander, it was called. That was a thing back even before EDH, where you just played with no repeats.
Okay.
So most of my friends I played with, we all had, in addition to real decks, we all had like these stupid, 200 card decks that didn't have any repeats.
They're basically
which meant to get no repeats, you're running Grizzly Bears. Like you're running every terrible card in your color, like literally every card in your colors.
Battle of Wits decks.
Yeah, right. So like I was familiar with like that kind of play style. So I saw, Commander was a thing. So I built a Commander deck. Like when I came back, that was literally the first thing I did. Was I was reading about what Magic looked like today. And I'm like, interrupts are gone. What the hell? That kind of thing. And then I'm like, I saw what Commander was. I'm like, oh, that's very similar to what we used to play. So I built a Commander deck like immediately. And my coworker that got me into the game already had, one or two of the original Precon series Precons. And we just started playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's way cool.
So you were...
I have a cat in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear or not going crazy.
Perfect background music. So you basically win command. Well, you were pre-Commander. That we started Commander like right when Commander was coming out, but you had it kind of going beforehand.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, like it was a real
version of it.
Yeah, it was a real rough version of it, but yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so a couple more questions. What's your favorite Commander?
I think it's still Glissa the Trader. That was one of the first decks I built.
So it's somewhere, it's in
those
your heart.
Always
right
hold.
Yeah.
Something in your heart.
She's really interactive. Like there's just a lot of things going on with that commander all the time. It lets you kind of show off and do stuff too, which I always like. You're responsible for making things happen. Recursion. Yeah. It's in colors that don't traditionally do artifact things. So that's always fun. You're kind of outside of the box anyway. So it's probably still Glissa, I would say.
So then your least favorite Commander? See, this was where the James Lipton, where I was going to cut up all the buttons because then I was going to have him say it for me. But what is your least favorite Commander?
It would be easy to say Turgid or something, but honestly, I've only played Turgid twice.
I haven't even I think I've gone against him once at this point.
I think it's probably still like either Tulane or Corvald.
Tulane is just ridiculous.
Because I feel like you can just kind of play them blindfolded and you're probably going to still win like half your games. You're probably just going to accidentally come out ahead.
That's just what happens.
And here's the thing. Like I say that at my shop fairly recently, we've had a couple of my son's friends who have been playing. Mm-hmm. So they're all like 12, 13, 14 years old. And for a brand new player like that, Tulane's great.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like a really great baby's first Commander deck kind of. So I get that, but it's not just being played by brand new players. So
that's actually a really good point though, because I'm in the process. We have a lot of new blood that we've been introducing to our play group, and that's actually where our last episode is kind of touching on how to build your toolbox when you're kind of a newer player, getting what cards to get. I've been trying to think of commanders to use for newer players, and Tulane's actually probably. I don't want to I know, Laura, you're shaking your.
What the fuck are you doing?
I know, but it is a good point though. You give that to the newer players; they don't have to think as much. They can just still be a threat, even though they don't know necessarily what they're doing. So that's actually. I don't know if I'll go Corval because that might be a little more. Is that that'd be a little more complicated? I think
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're getting into a little bit of philosophy here too. It's just kind of like so. You want to make sure that you're giving new new commander players, like something that doesn't have a ton of triggers. Right. And Corvold has you got to sack, you got the counters, you got to draw, you got a lot going on there. And so I agree it's really, really powerful, but at the same time, there's a lot going on.
Well, Tulane's pretty straightforward though, because it's just
play a creature, draw a card,
play a land, whatever, blah blah blah. But yeah, I can see.
And there's the philosophy too. I remember having been told by friends who play guitar, it's much easier to play an electric guitar, but you should still learn on an acoustic because learning on acoustic makes everything else easier after that. So I don't know if that philosophy applies to Magic or not, but
that's a good point.
That's a school of thought for some things as well.
Interesting. I like that. Okay, so what we're going to do with Dana here is eventually we're going to get to basically, what are we calling it, Larry? What did you kind of, the term tuned EDH is what you want to do?
Okay. So we're more going to just talk about the philosophies of our deck building and seeing if that fits somewhere, it's below CEDH, but it's definitely not. It's not people sitting in a chair tribal. That's very casual. So there is that middle ground, and I think it kind of should be discussed and how they are different.
And you had actually, the reason why it triggered us to get you on, not only because this is our 200th episode and special guest, all that stuff, but you had tweeted something out a few weeks ago, and then Larry was like, holy crap, Dana does the same stuff we do.
Yeah.
So that's
and I think we kind of already had that idea because we have a mutual... Bill from Woodbury, I know he's gone and met you guys in Eau Claire.
Yep.
And so I know he's like, hey, 3 years ago, he's like, you guys should hook up with Dana. And we're like, we'll get to it. And
3 years later, it's our...
And then we had 2 years worth of pandemic.
Well, exactly.
Still ongoing too.
But that's going to be in a little bit. But first, what we got to get to, let's see if I can transition this right. All right, here we go. It's time for everyone's favorite game show, Stump the Smith Savant. Okay, so this is a special version of Stump the Smith Savant. Since we have Dana here as our special guest, we're actually going to make this a little bit of a competition. This week there is no prizes on the line, as I came up with the stump on this one. What we're going to do, how we're changing it, is I'm going to read the flavor text. We're starting with Dana. Dana is going to get one clue, and then actually what I'll let you do is ask for the clue. Each of you can ask for the clue, so you don't have to get a clue if you don't want to. You can be cocky and get it without even getting anything. But you're going to ask yes or no questions. Every yes will hear this.
Hello, boobies.
And you can hear the buttons, right, Dana? I'm just making sure
I can hear them,
can.
yeah.
Okay, I was just like, I may be pressing these buttons right now, and Dana can't even hear them, and he's just sitting there like, oh, right, and there's
no idea
something
what's going
going on.
Well, I'm assuming that he's an adult, so he doesn't have to like react to hello boobies or
Well,
anything.
no, I just, when I played the intro
Internally, I am. Whenever I hear movies, like, absolutely something's going on.
but when I played the intro button, I was thinking, I pressed it, and I was like, what if Dana doesn't even hear anything that's going on right now, and we're just staring at him? And we did not plan that. All right, so that anytime that you guys get a no, which will be that, it'll be passed on to the other person. So you guys can keep guessing until you get a no. Once you get a no, then it's the other person's turn, and each person only gets one clue. But you guys keep going until you get it. So, all right, here we go. Your life was meaningless, but your death will glorify Yawgmoth. And I don't know if it's Tsabo. It's Tsabo. Kid can't even read, Lowry. Hit that button. Thank you.
Kid can't even read.
Tsabo or Sabo Tavak. That is who it's from.
Sabo Tovak?
Maybe.
I think that's how I normally say it.
Yeah.
I don't say that out loud. That's
No.
So
how you
your
get around
life,
that.
your life was meaningless, but your death will glorify Yawgmoth.
Okay. So is it a black card?
Wrong.
Oh,
I totally
goes
was on
to
there, too.
Lowry. Goes to Lowry.
All right.
Are you gonna take a clue, or are you gonna be ballsy like Dana and not even take a clue?
No, I thought I was right there with them. So I think this feels like maybe a reanimate card. This feels like something that Liliana Vess would say too. Like, so like black card with Sabo totally is a black card.
So you know you can kind of cheat with this is you just look at Dana's head if he starts going like this, he's agreeing with you, or maybe
right,
he's
right.
gonna play
He could be throwing
you.
me
and just
off.
like,
Well, I think
yes?
we're both in the same wrong path here to start
Yeah.
with.
Oh yeah. This is gonna be real bad. Okay. So this also feels like it's probably is this a non-permanent card?
Wrong.
Back to Dana. Your life was meaningless, but your death will glorify Yawgmoth.
So we know it's a non-black permanent.
Yeah.
Hello, boobies.
I'll just give you a hello, boobies. Just like,
That's encouragement. Thank you.
I'm going to go one more question without asking for a clue. Is it an artifact?
Hello, boobies.
Boom. That
Ooh,
narrows
right.
it down.
And Sabo means it's probably an old artifact. I mean, I guess it could be a Modern Horizons-ish card, but I don't recall seeing that text recently. So it's an artifact.
That was kind of the thing with this. I was like, fuck. Dana's gonna
Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, can't get it passed over there. You can get a clue, too.
I will take the first clue. I'll take the first clue. Because if I pass, I'm going to lose it, so I might as well.
I'm trying to see the one that'll best help you. Well, my first one was art features a four-armed being.
It's a
And-
Phyrexian altar.
Yep.
Hello, boobies.
You got it! Boom!
Nice job.
So, Lowry, you had it there, going
Yeah,
back to you there?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
What kind of gave it away? Well, both
There's
of them.
just a, like, when you think of Sabo, Savak, however you say it, like, Phyrexian altar does pop to mind. I knew she was in the art. And the forearm thing was definitely the clue. I mean, that was one of the cards I was considering, but I wasn't positive.
I'm impressed. You guys did well.
Yeah, once it got narrowed down to artifact, and then Sabo was invasion,
Yeah.
and you're kind of like, it's it's definitely a known card in my head. And so once it was an artifact, it kind of just clicked, and I was like, oh, darn.
Yeah.
So nice job.
I was
job.
tempted
I
to
mean, you
use,
had it if I didn't, so we were both on the right track.
I was tempted to jump on the Ultimate Masters version, but in the thing it says Phyrexian scriptures, and I was like, it's kind of in the name there, so let's go with the older art. And I typically like to take the older stuff there too. All right, so now let's get into the beer and pizza of this episode. Let me play this button.
Perhaps play a little game called Just a
Sounds a
Tip.
little
Just
lighter.
for a second, just to see how it feels. Or, ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
So we're playing. Well, it's not playing. We're not playing. Ouch, ouch, get out of my hair. We are doing just the tips. So Larry, why don't you go over kind of what we're going to be doing here with this one again?
Okay, so we're going to be talking about kind of like just deck building philosophies. It's also goes with like rule zero when you're talking with a crew of people. Like, what are you explaining with your deck? And I think this was what you wrote, Dana, was kind of like, yes, I think this is a perfect example of what rule zero should be. And so you just say minimal tutors, no tutorable win cons, no combo, no extra turns, no hard control locks, and next to impossible to pull out a win before turn 8 to 10. There is expensive cards and plenty of interaction.
Well, and I also think,
and I'm not saying that's the best way to play. That was just like the description of a deck in question, for example.
Yep.
Yeah.
well, I think the start of that tweet too is kind of what hit us a little bit too. Is that you said you don't like to deal with the deck power level necessarily, and this is the way that you like to do it, and that hits us like that's with us because I have no idea. Like you can't go, yeah, this is a 7, and then somebody else is like, no, that's an 8 because it has this and that. Like I don't even know where to put my deck on levels. I just know that they're.
We did an episode, and I don't think we knew what we were talking about. Like it's really hard. Like there's so much like.
Oh yeah, we did try to
minutia
break it down.
to it,
Right.
And like it's everything that you just wrote. I would go like, you know what? That's probably, if you're building it like in a tuned way, that might be like that 7 to 8.
Sure.
Which everybody says that is what their deck is.
Right.
Oh, it's 7 to 8. Yeah, it's just
And so like
my sliver
with
deck's
Dana, I would
7 to 8.
believe Dana that he knows, that range, but he's not. He doesn't even want to talk about that. You need to.
So my thought process there is, at the very least, even if you wind up with a mismatch in power, the person you're playing against knows what to expect. So at the very least, the expectations are set about, okay, well, it wound up being a mismatch, but I knew this wasn't going to happen, and this wasn't going to happen, and this wasn't going to happen. So you've at least like prepared them for the fact that things wound up not being as close as we thought in terms of power, but I was at least ready for there to not to be a bunch of tutors, not to be a bunch of counterspells, whatever. So you're at least on the same page as much as you can be. Like some of that stuff is not subjective. Like when I just say I have infinite combos, I don't have any. Like there's no questions to be asked there. Like they knew that going in. You've given them something concrete versus a 7, which is pretty subjective.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. Like if there are ways that you want to build your deck and you're talking like, and you say my deck has no combos, somebody else should be able to be like, well, I am like, that starts that conversation.
Sure,
that some people that I think, because there is the hesitancy for people to be like, oh, this is what my deck does, which I don't know if people should say if, I understand if you don't want to give, tilt your hand, but if you're willing to say like, no combo, I do like, but maybe, talk about how hard it is to get, like the no tutoring for the win con. I think that's really, again, everything that you just said, like Mr. Combo number 5 responded to it and said, this should be like one of your like business cards. And it's like, actually that's like a deck philosophy. And if you can just be like, this is how my decks generally run, I think that could be really just like a good way of starting a game with randoms.
Yeah.
Here's a question for it is, why do we have it this way? Like, why are we? I kind of know why we do it, but in specifically, why do you do your decks this? Like, have these kind of zero rule things going on?
So to take it back a step, I was kind of on board with the number system, and I'm not necessarily against it. I understand why you want to throw some rough number out there. It gives you a starting point. I I was much more on board with it a couple of years back. And then I believe it was that first round of Command Fests they had right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
There was one in Chicago, one in Seattle, and one in, I want to say, Washington, D.C. I went to the Chicago one. So I just played Commander with a bunch of random people, for 2 days, basically. The thing I really noticed there about just discussing deck power with people was not even necessarily the tangibles, but the intangibles felt like they made a really big swing in decks I was playing. I could sit down at this deck and say, this deck based on the cards is a 6. I have a Talran Sky Summoner deck that's built around making tokens. So it's not a control deck, it's a token deck. It's got a ton of like ponders and portents and brainstorms and as many cheap cantrips or draw spells and like things to buff my tokens up, gravitational shift or favorable winds or whatever. So I like just go wide with tokens and try to smash somebody in the face. It's a token aggro deck. That deck, if you hand someone that deck and say, look through my cards, they're trash. Like Brainstorm's a good card, I guess, but there's a ton of things in there, Latnam's Legacy or Search for the Golden City, like cards that are in 200x in EDH Rec, like just cards that are genuinely not good in most decks. They're good in that deck, though. For the way that deck is built and the way it plays, they're quite good. If I hand someone that deck and they flip through it, they're going to think this is just a trash deck. But the way those pieces fit together in that particular deck changed the power level. Additionally, I'm not the best player in the world, but like I play a ton of Commander.
Right.
Like just accidentally I'm going to be good or I'm going to be better than most people because I just get a lot of reps.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So even, though I make my fair share of mistakes, I'm just good enough because I
magic.
play a lot.
What do you,
Right. It's Commander especially.
Yeah.
So like that's a thing you can't measure either. That deck that looks like a 5 or 6 based on the cards, the way they're assembled is a tough thing to gauge and rate, and the way that would play in my hands compared to what would play in somebody who's been playing for 6 months is a whole different thing too. And I really noticed that at that Command Fest where like I was looking at a deck that someone had that based on the cards, I'm like, that deck is pretty strong, but their interactions were terrible. They've got a Sun Titan and there's 4 permanents in the whole deck they could actually recur with the Sun Titan.
Right.
So like the cards might be strong, but in that deck they weren't, or in that player's hands they weren't.
Yeah.
And that experience kind of threw me and made me like really question how much you can really put in that number system.
Right. And I would say 2 things with it too is that one, by eliminating or by adding these rules on, you kind of get almost a balance of decks in a way. Not everybody's is going to be the same, and every player is going to be different. Like you said, how to, even if your deck is bad, you can still pilot it or politics the table to make things work in your favor because you're an experienced player. But the other thing is like you were just saying there is you tend to build your deck better. You're having synergies a lot more that you don't have a card that you just go, well, why the hell is this card in here? Doesn't make, you're not looking for that tutor to get to your 1 of 3 win cons in the whole deck. You make it so that your deck flows it's just a better deck all around. It doesn't matter what.
Always in the game is that's the aim that I try and go for. And that's what it seems like what you're kind of saying is like, if one card gets blown up, your deck's not done.
Right.
But like you're probably drawing enough cards. Every card in your hand has a reason and it's going to do something when you're doing it. It fits within the theme and the style of the deck. And that's, again, very different from, okay, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, because I think you play a lot more and with a lot wider audience than
that was going to be my next question was like, how many different groups do you have?
Yeah. Because
definitely.
people like you. And so and so like, is this very different from CEDH?
No, like in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities.
Okay.
One thing I ran into last week, I played a bunch of Commander with some friends last week over the course of a few days on a vacation. And so
Sorry, you should have the "oh, good for you" button going there, especially where he was.
Right.
Oh, good. Oh, good for
You got a double oh good.
Oh,
for you
we're
there.
gonna, do you have any buttons? I feel bad.
So one of the things I looked at when I came back was I've got a bunch of copies of Soul Guide Lantern Index, just as to, if someone's going to pop off with a Rise of the Dark Realms, I want to stop that or something.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the new similar version we just got? Lantern of the Dead, I think.
Yeah, I don't know the name yet.
Yeah, that functions similarly, but it also hits your graveyard, but you draw a card every time. So I was looking at my decks. I'm like, well, I have Soul Guide Lantern in a bunch of these decks, but these 3 decks have no recursion. So why do I care if my graveyard goes away too? I might as well put in the new Lantern in those decks. That way, every time I blow up someone's graveyard with it, I will always draw the card. Soul Guide Lantern, you get to choose between drawing the card or blowing up graveyards.
Yeah.
The other one hits yours as well, but you always get the card draw. So I'm like, well, I should go through in the decks that have no recursion, because there's a couple of them. I might as well swap out for that new Lantern and always get the card draw. Just makes sense in that sense.
Oh, it's I just pulled it up. Just I typed in Lantern of the Lost. Is that
Lantern
the one
of
you're
the Lost,
talking about?
there we go.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
That's a pretty minimal change, right? But if you do that 6 or 8 times a year on different cards over the course of like 3 or 4 years, that makes a pretty big difference in your deck's power level, even if that isn't apparent looking at your deck. And that's the thing CDH does. That's like what CDH is all about, is finding those little tiny screws you can turn to get that slight advantage over what everyone else is doing. So like, in a lot of ways, it's a similar thing.
Okay. But like clearly when you're saying no combo, like that takes it down.
For sure. And I don't play much fast mana either. Like I don't think I have a crypt in any deck anymore. I don't have any mana vaults in any deck. I'm not running, Mox Diamond in anything. I don't have any Chrome Mox or anything. So
yeah. And again, that's like, I think a philosophy thing. Like I don't put crypt in anything that has like, it's in my dragon deck so that I can play it like maybe a turn, like where it kind of like, I have big fat creatures that I want to make sure that just don't get stuck in my hand. And when I say that, you're like, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And, but it's not in, it's not going to be in my elf decks.
Right.
What? Why not? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, because it is that power level. And I think when you're getting, we have a pretty specific group, Adam. And so like, I definitely try and tune my decks to be within that range.
Yeah.
And when people are like, oh, I want to try this deck or I want to do this deck, I want to make sure that I can choose decks that are within that range to create a good game. And that's like, and it's because it's also like playing philosophy. Dana, I don't know your play style, but like when you're in a game and you can knock somebody out, but it's like it's just right away. Everybody's still in that 30 life range. Like, tough. Are you knocking them out?
Yeah, I prefer not to.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. And so that's
if
again a mindset.
Friend, if it's a friend where like I know there's gonna be no hard feelings,
then you get them out.
Or you can talk shit when you do it.
Yeah,
like that's different. But if it's somebody I don't know well or a stranger, I absolutely do not want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's even more so, I think, in this is probably something you guys experience as well. When you are doing content creation, you also like have a reputation you have to worry about too. Like, I don't want to be that jerk who was on a podcast.
Everybody, we're more just picked on.
Yeah, there's a thing in our Discord. It's called "Kill the Smith." Like when in doubt, kill the Smith. That's what. So it doesn't even make sense. It just comes at us whenever we're playing with anybody.
And you get that too, right? Like there are people that like want to say they beat the person on the show.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So the experience is weird.
It's
if
definitely
you're in
different.
content creation, it's a little bit of a different environment.
Yeah,
both in terms of how people play against you and how you play back.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I was wondering, what is a nice number for length of game? What is your time?
I want a game to go an hour-ish. I don't want a game to go 2 hours usually. I don't want it to be over in 15, 20 minutes usually either.
I had it written down 1 to 3 hours. So.
It also depends on what's happening too. Like I've played 3-hour games where everyone's just going back and forth and it feels like you're playing 4 different games at the same time. So
and that's what I feel like is a good Commander game, is if at some point during the game everybody had an opportunity to potentially win the game.
Well, and I think part of the reason why I'm not really a combo player is I want to see, like, I don't want to just win. I want to see somebody else try to win and fail first. Like, I want to stop them and say, you made your move and you did not succeed, and you made your move and you did not succeed, and then I won.
Yeah. And when you say combo, both of you guys were, because I normally say infinite combo, you're just saying basically infinite combo.
I use that for an infinite combo. Like, there's definitely interactions I have in decks where, like, this works well with this and this. Yeah. I don't think I run anything in any of my decks where I can just, like, auto-generate a win.
Yeah, my closest one is the Niv Mizzet. What did I write down? It was Niv Mizzet, the, what is it, Ophidian Eye?
Oh,
but that depends on how many players you have and how big your deck is at that point, because you can't mill out everybody at once or kill everybody at once.
I don't have a problem. Like, I lose to combo all the time. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying, for me personally, it doesn't. No. It's not not a satisfying way for me to close out a game.
Well, it sometimes you get feel bads where everybody's grinding at this win or this game, and then all of a sudden the game's just done like that, and nobody had a chance to do anything. So that it does get kind of feel bads in there, and that's kind of why we eliminate it from what we typically do.
And there's definitely a difference between like combo where it's like known and kind of like maybe 3 cards. Like, but if it's a contraption, like, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so for me at least, and that doesn't have to be for everybody, but like if it's new to me or interesting, that makes me not like worry about it.
Sure.
But if it's Bolas' Citadel with whatever is going, like Sensei's Top and the one that gains you life and then you can burn 50. Like
Aether Flux Reservoir.
Yeah, like that's known. I've seen it before. And so like that's where it is to me. Like also just like decks for Adam really likes Craterhoof Behemoth and Cyclonic Rift. Yeah. He likes those 2 cards. And he plays them in a lot of his blue and green decks, whatever it is.
Dude, I haven't built a blue and green deck. It's all red lately, man.
I know.
It's all
mono
red.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
But like, I'm not going to complain about it either. Like, I know it. Yeah. I'm going to be ready for it.
Sure.
And I'm going to play according. But at the same time, like, I do. And again, this isn't something that I would say, hey, you should be playing or like making decks or playing stuff for other people's benefit and enjoyment. I can also say, fuck them, do your thing too. Because at the same time, like we've all been doing Commander for a really long time. And so when you're doing it for a longer time, you're looking for different things in a game or in a deck. And so I think that's also important, like perspective wise, like the newer player is going to want to do Citadel Top and Reservoir.
Right.
Like, and I need to be able to be okay with that and not be like, oh, that's fucking boring, like, because those are cool new interactions for them.
Sure.
As well. And so
and that gets tricky sometimes too when it's like the 4th game of the night and you haven't eaten in 6 hours and you're getting cranky and tired and low blood sugar and you gotta pee and you're like, I guess, man, you won. Like, it's you gotta fight, you gotta like not have the attitude sometimes, and that's sometimes you have to fight through that and be like, yeah, good game, man.
So I mean, I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, actually, one of the things I was going to ask Data is, do you guys do anything to kind of counteract the 4-player rule, the 4th person when starting the game? So we kind of we did this guys weekend right before COVID hit, actually, is when we started implementing this. But where when we play 4-player games, we try to we do free mulligans. We want to have a fun game. We don't care about dropping down.
We do that as well. It's like, as long as you're just multiple playable hand and no one's trying.
You're not just trying to wait for your soul ring into Sensei's Top or whatever. But as long as you have a crappy hand, whatever. But what we have been doing is first player draws 8. Second player and third player draw 9, last player draws 10, and it's doing the London Mulligan rule where you take those and you put them on the bottom, and it seems like it's evened out. We haven't really like kept track. When we did it in the beginning, it seemed to help a little bit, but it gives that last player, at least a 2-card advantage over that first player to choose what they're seeing with the cards. And then, everybody has the same amount. Do you guys do anything to start a game that helps that at all?
We've messed around a little bit with things like starting off with the Monarch in play. Like the last,
How does
the
that
last
work?
player is the Monarch.
Oh, okay.
It wanted to be a little more chaotic than I think we were hoping for. Like it felt like it just added more chaos to the game really early than it actually served as an interesting advantage.
Because is it more of people trying to get to that person as fast as possible?
Or you'd have the situation where like the first player would drop that T1 Llanowar Elf or something, and that last player like, okay, I'm the Monarch, and if they don't have a blocker, they're just going to immediately give it up to that first player who's going to draw a card off it right away anyway. So it wound up being an advantage that I don't know if it was even an advantage really for the last player. And that was really it. Like most of the people I play with, we tend to play slow enough that I don't know if we ever really noticed there was an advantage to going first, like you might see in a faster meta.
Okay.
Do you guys do? This was our game changer. Was starting to play with proxies. Now you probably don't because you play at the store more, and that might be a little bit more like
Depends.
we don't.
I do play in a shop, but people come in with proxies, and we have people play proxies on our stream sometimes too. My attitude about it is I do think there are problems inherent in proxies. I think they can cause an arms race. I do think they make it easy to power beyond the power of your pod in a way that people kind of sometimes lie to themselves about. Like, what I've seen people do is like, that person's got a scrub land, so therefore I'm okay for proxying a guy's cradle. Like, those aren't the same thing. A scrub land and 2-color deck is not the same thing as your cradle.
No.
Right.
But that being said, I think proxies are probably necessary these days. Like the reality is there's just a lot of crazy expensive cards, and they're not just all old ones these days. Yeah. I am pretty okay with proxies in most circumstances, I think, as long as people are aware of the problems that can sometimes be inherent in them. It's just, I think these days it's part of the game.
Yep.
And I know one thing, and I've seen the discussion on some of this too. Like one of our rules within our play group is you have to own the card.
Yeah, we don't,
and then you just don't have to worry about switching it in between decks and stuff like that. Like, and that kind of made sense for Adam, and because I was just like proxy away.
These days, I don't even worry about that too much.
Yeah, especially when it's like an open meta and you got to deal with a lot of people. Like, you're not gonna fucking just going like, hey, can you show me? Do you have an
go bring your binder
images and like it's like that's pointless. I totally see that. But we don't like our friends, so we just prove it.
Show us that card. Well, that's easier for us because we just have a specific play group. We don't typically, like when we go into play at LGSs and stuff, it's more of like the pre-releases and stuff like that. I haven't really done a lot of we had.
I have a shop in town I play at once a week. And
you gonna plug them? You can plug them.
D20 in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I'll plug them.
There you go.
But this is a college town, so we have like a pretty good turnover of people anyway that are coming through that play Magic. A lot of people that play there are younger too. So I think at this point, like in Commander Night, we oftentimes are at 40 to 50 people in there playing. So
there's
a
big group.
10 to 12 pods going most of the time on EDH night. The store just had to expand to accommodate, in part because Commander Night is so big. So
did you guys it shrink down quite a bit with COVID, and then now
they did, but not a ton. They still had, like I wasn't playing for them until I got my vaccination, so I wasn't going in. They still had people showing up. Like the store survived and did pretty well, and since vaccines have been a thing, that night has just exploded.
That's crazy. We don't have anything like that up here, do we? I don't think we have. I don't know any stores that get that many.
Not up where you're at. No.
Well, not here. I mean,
like
Twin Cities.
I think
because I'm trying to think of the source. Like that was one of the bigger ones. Or
I would say played a Lodestone before, and there's been a dozen to 16, 18 people playing Commander. I mean, on a Sunday afternoon, I think I went over there one time for a Commander afternoon.
And Dreamer's Vault might have some action because they're more in the cities.
Listen to all these plugs. We're going to get some money from this, and I'm just kidding.
Nobody likes us. That's fine.
Oh, speaking really quick, Dana, what are you drinking there? It looks like a whiskey. Yeah. We haven't done our plugs for our drinks here tonight. What are you drinking?
I have a Glenfiddich 14 I'm finishing off that
looks
I got
delicious.
from my father-in-law for a gift a few months ago.
That's awesome. Lowry, what are you drinking up there, buddy?
Well, I crushed 2 beers already. It's very good.
You're so wasted.
This was a generous donation from a patron of ours. I can't say his name in front of Dana. I'll blush. It's Alex. It's Liquid
Hockey.
Strata. Yeah, iBook Hockey. Liquid Strata Crystals, DDH Strata New England IPA, and this was delicious. You might be able to get this down in Eau Claire.
I'll have to look.
And then right now, I am drinking Alpha Claws from Three Floyds, which is also very good.
God, you got some cool names with your beers,
This
man.
is a Christmas porter. I highly suggest both these beers. I'm very, very pleased tonight and probably
I'm just drinking a Sam Adams seasonal old Fezziwig. That's all I'm drinking. The wife got that
I had to
one.
go to a junior high band concert tonight, so I figured I needed to start drinking afterwards after sitting through that for an hour.
Surprise,
the kids tried. There was a good effort put forth.
Are you a musician at all then? Like you brought up the guitar thing and
no, I played amateurly as a kid, like in band, and I played guitar a little bit, goofed around, but no, not really.
He doesn't have time for music. He does so much.
My
messy
wife
stuff.
my wife is a pretty good pianist, and my son plays piano as well, and is quite skilled. He did not get that from me; he got it from her. So
our grandma covers her ears when we're singing "Happy Birthday." That's our level. So
pretty much, yeah.
You're doing better than us.
No,
You remember-
I am a pretty big music nerd. I actually do get over to the cities quite a bit, and I've gone to. I try to go pre-COVID at least 3 or 4 times a year over there to go to First Ave for different concerts.
Nice.
But
It's
I
funny
haven't
that
since COVID.
a majority of the country that hears this and they go, the cities, what are they talking
Yeah,
about?
it's-
But the people
Minneapolis
don't
is
realize
all
that the
there,
Twin
yeah.
Cities is called the cities. It's like what?
Chicago
where is
gets its
Dana? Is he
name.
just in okay, so was there anything else with stuff? Do you have any? We have a little beef with counter spells, but that's only because we're butthurt from our other cousin when
that
we
doesn't
used to play
anymore.
60 card decks.
Counterspells suck. Like nobody
all
likes
right.
getting their stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Dana,
actually,
can you come on every week? Because it'd be great to just have.
Hold on, just
I
cut that up
have-
in a button.
That's
and
right.
Counterspells.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will.
I have at least one blue deck that doesn't have counterspells in it because I'm like, I'm just not going to run counterspells in this deck.
Yeah.
I just don't want them. And I think the deck that has my deck that has the most, it's probably my most competitive deck. I do have a just slightly sub CEDH Edric from Extra Tress deck.
Okay.
That I don't play very often, but it's like if I need to play at that power level, I have one that I can play at that level. I think it's got 8 or 9 counter spells. That's the most I have in any deck. The ones where I'm even running them, I'm running 4 counter spells, 5 counter spells tops. Just because it's annoying. Like I know it's annoying, so I don't feel bad if I'm using it surgically to stop something that I need to stop. But playing control with counter spells. It's not fun when someone does it to me, so I don't want to do it to somebody else.
Solitaire. Typically, the counter spells that make it in my deck have to fit. Everything has to theme wise, like we were talking about before. If I'm dealing with treasures or something, then I'm going to use Spell Swindle. Is that the one that has the treasure?
Yeah.
So it always has to. The counter has to fit with what's going on, but otherwise, it is. I mean, counter is the best removal spell. It just sucks when you're not playing Magic anymore and you're waiting for the counter.
It feels bad when you're sitting right to the left of that Baral player and
right.
They're just they can't wait to just counter whatever the first spell that comes in. Come on.
Well, that's exactly so. Our cousin that doesn't play anymore, he played a Patron Wizard 60 card casual deck.
Ugh.
And essentially what we would have to do is whoever was sitting the next player, you would have to play as many spells as you could so that Adam or I myself could play a spell or two.
Yeah. It was awful.
And then it made games awful.
That's why
counterspells are awful.
We're kind of butthurt with it.
A
decade later, we're like,
they're an important part of the game. Don't get me wrong. I'm well aware of that. But no, I mean, they're frustrating for sure. I get it. The same thing to a degree. Like in the last year, I've kind of pulled back a little bit on the amount of board wipes I run in decks. I usually run 3 to 4, and I've pulled that down to 2 in most of my decks at most. Again, because there was too many situations where we'd be at the 45-minute mark or an hour mark, and I'd board wipe, and 3 turns later, someone else board wipes, and it
just keeps going. Yeah.
It wound up at some point, I'm like, I'd rather just lose this game than keep having them be extended. So I've pulled that number back a little bit too.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years, Lowry's bled on to me a little bit, where I was always playing similar to you as I was playing board wipes was my answer to get rid of everything. You know, it's like that's why the Cyclonic Rift makes it in, because it's like, what's the answer to artifacts, or what's the answer to enchantments? What's the answer to creature? Well, Cyclonic Rift is the answer for everything. But over the last couple of years, I've pulled back on going more spot removal stuff, because you don't need quite so many board wipes. It sucks to reset sometimes.
And that's kind of like, it's not as bad as like Armageddon, right?
Right.
Like Armageddon just like sets the game way back. And I definitely have problems with that unless you have a way to win within 2 turns.
Agreed.
That's the big thing with all those.
Yeah.
You have to have a way to win. If you're just doing it to do it, you suck.
And so but Wrath of God and Damnation, they kind of had the same effect for me. You know, like where I'm just like, I'm not going to put those in unless I can use them to my advantage to end the game quicker. Like if it's an indestructible deck or you know, like Teferi's protection and I can protect everything. Like that makes sense. But like, unless it's like Hour of Reckoning in a token deck, like if it wasn't that style, I just don't do Wraths. And generally I have found that spot removal at the right time solves as many problems as a Wrath would. You know, if somebody's going to Crater Hoof, then you're just kind of done.
Then the game's done. You start a new game.
You know, you know, and like, so like, again, those are those things like when you've been playing long enough, you know what you're looking for. And there isn't any problem in somebody wanting to play Wrath of God.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And so, okay. One thing that I did bring up, and I know we're kind of starting to wrap up a little bit. I can feel it. I don't know. But is this a discussion where it's kind of like, okay, should there be some type of consideration for this like type of tuned decks in the conversation of, you know, like you can be like, I've been playing EDH for a long time and these decks are fairly tuned. I don't have those combos. I don't have the tutors. So it's in my mind, it's clearly not CEDH. It's not competitive.
Right.
Like it's definitely a step down, but I'm not a new player. I don't have a small collection that I'm picking from. I don't really have, like, is there a big enough crew of people like that go like, yeah, we're kind of something different from very casual and we're very different from competitive. And is that something that should be brought into the discussion at least at this point?
I think, yes, but I also, you have to be succinct too. And I don't know if there's a good way to do it either. I think it's a good idea, but I'm unsure how to implement that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At this point, I'm just erring on the side of like providing as much information as I can to someone in that 20 or 30 seconds before they get bored of hearing me talk about my deck and I sound narcissistic. So like whatever information that I think is useful that I can convey in that window, I want to try to convey. Beyond that, I don't know if there's a right answer to that. Because you're right, there's absolutely like playing against me and my decks is going to be a different experience than playing against someone who's 6 months into this game and is playing even if it's a modified precon. Like I don't,
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be different. I know what your card is. Like Laurie, we were both pretty quickly able to figure out that Ajnod Altar. Like we just are around the game enough that like a 4-armed person in the art, that's Altar. Like that's a thing most people don't have. And when we build a deck, I would wager you two are able to be like, that one stupid card from Invasion is going to be great in this set, or that one crappy, uncommon from back in Homelands is going to actually be perfect here. 95% of players don't brew that way. So even though those cards on paper don't look that impressive, they might be very impressive in our particular deck. The question becomes, how do you convey that in 20 or 30 seconds? And I don't know what the answer is to that necessarily, but it definitely makes a difference.
Well, is it just a new type of commander? Like, is that the way it be? And that's the hard part about it.
I think the reality is Commander's just a crazy format where there's a bunch of different factors that make up the power level, and I don't know if you just can't put it on a scale, I don't think.
Right. And the thing is
I think that makes sense.
We don't really get butt hurt with that. With somebody comes in and they're comboing off, and it's just we kind of go, well, we just don't play that, but understand that people are. I think
back, there was the Commander tournament at Vegas, and I think it was 2018. That was really weird because it was a Commander tournament, so therefore they're going to get competitive decks, but it also awarded points for most creative decks. So every pod I sat down in had somebody playing like Teferi Chainveil into someone else's like Ladies Looking Left deck. It was just because of how the tournament was set up, you had all kinds of crazy stuff. But I also saw that same Teferi Chainveil deck absolutely fall on its face because the player playing it looked up best EDH deck OPGG and put it together for that tournament and had no idea how to run it, and then fizzled out 4 or 5 times trying to figure out what the combo was, and lost to someone's pretty mediocre Ladies Looking Left deck because they were able to just drop those crawl worms and smash them in the face while the person was trying to figure out their combo. How do you measure that? Like that is a real thing that can happen in Commander, and I don't know how do you quantify that. I am not sure. That's not probably a common occurrence necessarily. Like that kind of thing happens.
I don't know about the Ladies Looking Left deck, but I know like we had a buddy that doesn't play anymore again, that would pull decks off, deck lists off and proxy them and buy them or whatever. And he was just like, this deck doesn't really look good. And you're going through it and like, you don't know, like you don't understand what this combo's doing, sure. Like, and it was just like, if you don't know how to pilot the deck, that's really, really important.
Yeah.
And so and that's harder to do for newer players. And so like what you're saying right there is just like newer players, it's really, even if you have a good deck or you spent a ton of money, it is hard because there is a lot of interactions within a Commander deck. So how do you quantify that?
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point of what you're saying.
Yeah. And like I said, talk about the Lantern of the Lost versus Soul Guide Lantern thing. Like that's
I know exactly what you're talking about, and other people might be like, "Who cares?"
Yeah, exactly right. But if you're playing that deck that's made 15 of those tweaks over the course of a year, that's going to play much different than someone else's deck, but that doesn't look that way on paper. So it's just a mess. I think maybe we have to just acknowledge that like there's never going to be a perfect solution, and to just try to give as much information as we can during that conversation with strangers.
That feels pessimistic, but okay.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Well, and it's also the game's evolving too. Maybe we will have that solution in 2 years. Maybe there'll be a better way to do that or something. Who knows? But I think like it's evolved from where it was 2 years ago. So the game is continuing to change. Like our understanding of it is changing as well.
I can tell you the pre-cons each year just get more and more ridiculous. It's insane. Have you gone against a Zephi deck at all?
Yeah, it's crazy. That deck is crazy.
It's just you have to do math, like you have to do calculus and crap while you're doing that freaking deck. It's insane.
Well, there's so many cards too. Like how many? I remember when I first started playing and being excited about, hey, M14's coming out. We're gonna get some new cards, and we'd get and I like going through M14 and be like, all right, there's 2 playable cards here that I want to use in my deck.
Right
nowadays,
it's just a mittful every time.
And there's 5 new legends we can choose from in this set versus like there's 36 new ones in this set in the 10 sets we get per year. Like that changes the math and everything too.
Oh yeah. Okay, we're going into there's like they have been printing so many. The year of Commander gave us so many commanders to choose from. Like that's nice to have diversity.
Sure.
But I don't know how many are actually being played. And I'm sure EDH Rec plug could tell us, but like I'm sure there's just a lot in a few of them and then like a sprinkling among the other 130.
Yeah. Yes, basically. I mean, like if you look at each set, you're like, what's the strongest commander from the set? That's one that's getting played most.
And then just goes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to add with how your play group or what you like to see? Like we talked about the combos and we talked about all that stuff. Was there something that we missed that you like to do when if you had a choice, or what you do with decks, I guess, personally?
I mean, I would say I build in a way that probably isn't necessarily the way most people build either. I don't see a commander and want to build that commander. I come up with an idea and try to figure out what commander can facilitate that idea.
Okay.
And I usually also try to avoid new commanders.
So what happens when you don't have a commander that fits with it?
I sometimes take years to come up with that, to find that solution. I wanted to build an Izzet deck. I want to say 2018 is when I started kind of come up with the Izzet deck I wanted to build, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted an Izzet deck that was built around combat damage, where I would swing with an Izzet commander and give it like the red version of Giant Growth, which I think is Brute Force, and then like copy Brute Force with a fork or something, and then like double the damage and like be able to hit somebody with essentially Voltron using like instant speed creature buffs.
Calamax?
Well, and then Calamax came out, and I'm like, well, that's the obvious answer to this thing.
It's so
to do
fun.
That with Calamax, which is so I didn't want to do it then. Like, Calamax is the obvious way to do it, so I didn't want to do it.
All right. It's so fun.
You have to be the mad scientist.
Right. I do, and that's important to me. That's what gives me satisfaction.
Yeah.
No disrespect to anybody who like takes the quote unquote obvious route. But I want to find my unique way to do it. That's important to me.
That's kind of the cool thing too, is if you find a commander that isn't highly used, you get a lot of people that are like, "Whoa, what is that? I've never seen that commander before." So yeah, I get that. Everybody's seen Calamax,
right.
Lowry. I'm just kidding.
Well, so I've wanted to put an equipment commander for years, and which meant, well, I'm not building Boros because everyone builds Boros equipment. So like I've tried Orzhov equipment. I finally nailed it with an Azorius equipment deck, and got one that I enjoyed playing. But I tinkered with that for years, trying to figure out how to build equipment in a way that felt unique to me and played the way I wanted a deck to play. So like I mess around with stuff for years. I have a dozen decks probably on my Architect profile that are hidden right now that I'm like trying, that I will tinker with, for 20 minutes for a day and then not touch it for 3 weeks and go back to it till I like find the right like alchemical mix to make me want to actually put it together in paper.
So I've done that once, and it was with I've always wanted to have a vehicle deck, and then I was just like, I just don't want to do the dwarf thing when they build it and they're like, vehicles. I'm like, no. And then Magda came out, and I was like, this is perfect for it, and built it. And the equipment or the vehicles just don't work that way. I mean, they work, but there's so much other things you can do. You don't need. I have those still in there, but it now isn't really a vehicle deck. It's just a tap engine for my dwarves to tap. So I was really excited. So I kind of took that same angle. I was waiting for something to come out that was for vehicles, or not necessarily for vehicles, but would work well with it. And then I found one, and then it just didn't fucking work.
Well, like I messed with Exalted.
Magda's good though.
Exalted for a long time. So I started with Rafiq, obviously, and I'm like, this is just a Rafiq deck. Doesn't matter what you do, it's a Rafiq deck. So I've tried like half a dozen different iterations of Exalted, and the conclusion I eventually came to was, unless you're playing some vanilla legend from back in Legends that has no abilities, your commander is just always going to be the best part of that deck that you're going to swing with every single time. It's just going to turn into that commander deck because Exalted is just the creatures are always kind of bad, and your commander is going to be by far the best part of it. It's going to be the logical thing you swing with every time. So your deck was just going to become the Rafiq deck, or I tried Kenrith at one point, or I tried Saskia at one point. Like they just turn into those commanders.
Okay. Not tooting my horn. I'll be working on a Rafiq deck that is Exalted, but I think it's going to work a little bit different.
Okay.
And so I'll probably send a deck list over to you.
Yeah.
It might be 6 months from now. Maybe we should plug this right now. Starting in 2022, I'm going to start like trying to do some like live stream deck building stuff. And so Rafiq is going to be in the pile that I have. It's not going to be first. It might be like third on the list right now. And so, but I like Exalted. I'm totally there with you.
I love the mechanic.
Yeah. And so it is, hopefully I got an interesting way to go about it.
Cool.
And so it's still Exalted though.
Sure.
But I think when you're deck building, I think that's really hard. The way you're doing it, I'm sure is incredibly satisfying, because you're taking this wide idea, and generally for me and Adam, like we build fairly similar, but like the commander gives you the focus.
Sure. Right.
And so you're able to build there, and I'm sure that's how a lot of people play. And you're kind of going like everything.
Here's the
what
wide
works.
thing. What do you narrow it down to?
Yeah, that sounds
hard.
That sounds hard. How long does it take you to build a deck? Like initially,
it's got to be exciting when something pops and you're like, "Holy shit!"
Infrequently have I been able to put a deck together quickly. I've definitely built some before where like I had the idea, found the commander, immediately the pieces fell into place. I can't think of an example recently, but most of the time we're talking like the deck has been in various stages of brewing for at least 6 months, if not longer.
Ha! Lowry, you said I was a fucking slow builder.
You are.
He's slower.
No, but he doesn't come out with it. Like he's like, you're like an author that's just like
I mean,
making a book,
that sounds
and then
pretentious, but
everybody's
like, you're not wrong. That's not inaccurate. That's kind of how I view it. Sure.
Martin, come out with Winter.
Right. Dance, puppet, dance.
And so I think that's kind of interesting. Like I just tried that maybe for the first time in a long time. I'm trying to I have a bunch of cards or Dragon's Approach coming to me on Cardsphere now, and I'm going like, well, I guess I got to build the deck, and I kind of have an idea, and I think I'm going to go with my second Calamax deck. But again, I'm building the deck first.
Sure.
And then, like, I understand that Dragon's Approach doesn't really work there. And so if that doesn't work, I'm willing to move over to, like, Riku of 2 Reflections. And if that doesn't work, I got a couple of backup commanders, but you're not even like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, usually, yeah. Like I'm trying to think what I built. I didn't have a mono red deck. So like
I can borrow you one.
That was the last thing I was trying to figure out, because that will give me the 5 colors and every guild. I had every guild done. I had 4 monocolor decks done. I'm like, I just want to build mono red.
For you.
But at this point, it becomes more difficult to not overlap. Like, okay, well, red's the last thing. And every idea I had, I'm like, well, that plays too close to this deck, or that plays too close to that deck.
That's the hard
like,
part that happens.
It gets more and more difficult every new deck you put in your stable to find something that like plays differently than another deck. So, I mean, it gets harder and harder as I go to building the way I build.
Yeah, the worst feeling is when you build 2 decks and then I play one and I'm like, Larry, should I play the other one? And you're just like, oh, that one's pretty similar to the one you just played. I'm like, fuck, I just spent all that time and I spent weeks on that deck and now I can't play it. And then I see it. It's like, oh it is very similar. Shit. Scrap it.
And I think I kind of want to defend my Dragon's Approach deck, but that's fine. I don't have to worry about it. I don't need to validate myself to anybody else.
Sure, like do what's fun for you. Like that's an important thing. And I hate having to caveat things all the time. I feel like I made this comment. I think I was talking to Shivam about this one time. Like, I use twice as many words as I have to when I do things, because I have to say, except this is okay when you do it too. Like, I don't want to insult anybody when I say that. Just because I build a certain way and find it fun and don't find something else fun, who cares if you find it fun? Like, it doesn't matter. And do what you enjoy.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun just to insult the counterspell people.
Sure. You mean, listen, they're not real people.
They have no soul.
They have no soul. And feelings aren't getting hurt.
Do we got it? No, you got it, Adam. Go say, hey, number 2.
That's what I was about to hit.
Hey, number 2.
Hey, number 2. Hey, number 2. That's one of our buddies. He does. He built a deck that's strictly, it's like 20 some counterspells, just to go against Magda, because he hates my Magda deck so much. And he rags on me because he's like, oh, you don't play tutors, and Magda is only a tutor deck. And I was like, well, that's the theme. That's what Magda's doing. It's my only one that I'm able to just have it. That's the problem with it, is there's an answer for everything with that deck.
The whole reason I have a Talran deck, actually, is way back when I first started playing, we had a local player in our shop who played mono red. It was a Dong Zhao from back in Portal 3 Kingdoms, I think was his commander.
I don't even know what that one does.
When it ETBs, it deals damage equal to, like, each player takes damage equal to their largest creature or something. I forget. Something along those lines. But he was a very much a kind of a jerk. He eventually got banned from the shop for bullying some like 12-year-old kid or something.
Oh, that's cool.
So he was just generally an awful human being, and he's now a cop. It's neither here nor there, I guess. But
cut that.
Yeah,
cut
that part.
Just
kidding. Completely.
So like the community was smaller, 6 years ago, whatever. So I would just get stuck playing a game with him once a night, and he was so annoying, and he hated blue, and he was a anti-counterspell player. So I'm like, I am just going to build a 25 counterspell deck. Talon was the logical choice, so I built it just to play against him. Like that was, I intended to never play the deck unless I was in a pot with him, just like as a middle finger.
Damn it, you are number 2. You are number 2.
What you should do is send him like a Facebook or a Twitter message, and then put your commander there with all the counter spells, like as a picture, and say back the blue.
Right. You're definitely going to get nailed with that for sure. So anyways, that's why I have the deck. I built it for that purpose. And then after he got banned, I'm like, well, I have the land base and everything together. I might as well like figure out what I could actually make this deck enjoyable to play versus just a deck I play when I want to like stick my thumb in this guy's eye. So that's why I have that deck.
That's awesome. All right. I think that's probably about it. Do you guys have anything else you would like to add? We need to get some plugs with
I'll ask you guys, what does your pregame conversation look like when you do wind up playing with people that you don't usually play with?
I think the biggest thing we don't play with a lot of different people that we that's the other part is we just have our core group, and then it just keeps expanding. But when we do go to other
Discord
people's
knows like our playing style enough.
Sure.
So like,
so the Discord's different because we don't do, Larry and myself don't do a lot of the spell table just because of the proxies. Spell table doesn't pick up proxies very well.
Sure.
And so that kind of sucks for people to see my mat, and then they can't even see what the card is. Even if it's the same exact art, it just doesn't pick it up right. So we play a lot of Cockatrice on there.
Okay.
But when we've gone to like number 2, he's part of our play group, but then he also has his other play group that he plays with and all that. They just know that we play with proxies. That's our biggest thing. I don't care if somebody, like we just talked about, if they're playing combos, if they're doing whatever and all that.
You definitely, like when you play proxies, you definitely should be saying like, I have proxies.
Yeah.
So you almost want to show up and be like, I have proxies. Is everybody cool with that? And if not, you buy a moon pie and you go home. Like,
so we have pretty fine-tuned decks up until the point of no tutors and all that stuff. So even if we're going against something that is really high-tuned with the tutors, with the infinite combos and stuff, we're still going to put up a fight with it, And so I really don't have a problem if somebody's just boom, 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 whatever. My problem is like, I think you said this, the stacks decks, you don't like those type of decks where it's just locking decks out. And that's kind of a similar thing to counterspells. It's like,
I don't necessarily not like it. I just want to know what I'm getting into. Because like if I had a shitty day at work, I definitely don't want to deal with that, right? Like if it's, if it's
you don't want to be flipping tables.
If it's a Saturday afternoon and it's like been a chill weekend, I'm like, then I might be like, whatever, let's fight through this puzzle. If it's after a long day at work, I'm like, I just want to turn shit sideways. I just don't want to deal with. Right.
Well,
you just want your.
So give me a heads up.
I think you sit down and you. Yeah, I think you say your archetype. Like if you're saying like I'm playing stacks, then it's like, well, fuck. And like you got to understand that, but generally like we're probably pretty rusty with like COVID. We're not going in. We're not really seeing a whole ton of people, and in our play group we kind of know what the decks are at this point, and so like we sit down against Mogus and we know that it's kind of stacksy. Mm-hmm. People are going to be sacrificing stuff. That's what the deck is doing, and so like we generally pick our deck appropriately, and then I still got crushed. That was I don't like so like last we played what 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
I was playing my new Trailasara from the D&D set this last year. So I was playing that and I came out blazing. I was I had the Sarah's Ascendant. Yeah, and so I was just beating people with that. Trailasara was like an 8/8, had protection, everything. Turn 6, Austere Command comes down, blows up everything of mine.
All
And
but one of
then-
mine.
Yeah, and then the Mogus deck had God, I should have looked this up, but the demon that
It's the master of. It's the one that
cruelties,
when it deals-
master of cruelties,
Yeah.
and then hit me down to 1, and then I was out of the game, and I was like, well,
Well,
deserve
no,
that.
I saved your ass one turn,
You
and then
did.
I killed you the
The
next turn.
washout, yeah. But like that's even like you could say like Soul's Ascendant is like kind of a broken card in Commander, but at the same time, like when I was dead, everybody was in their 20s.
Right. Sure. Right.
So, and that was that's not a normal game.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't expect that from the Mogus deck, and it was the first time I was playing the deck, and I was like, oh, that was quick, but still, like when you're that fast, the game changes to adjust to you as well.
Right. For sure.
And so it's that same idea of like turn 1 Soul Ring, that person kind of loses because they come out so fast.
Oh.
And
Do you guys do any of those kind of bans with that? I know some playgroups ban soul rings and all that. Or
we've not. In part because at least my shop meta is so big and so changing, it wouldn't make sense to.
yeah.
So not there. And among my like smaller friends group kind of meta, no one wants to play that way. So I just like if someone comes up with the turn 1 Soul Ring, that's just going to be a fluke for that game, particularly because no one's playing, for the most part, Crypt or Vault or anything else that's super fast. So, hey, once in a while someone drops that Soul Ring into Arcane Signet into, the
Sensei's Divining
Top right away. And you're like, well, and usually
right.
the thing is, if you're not playing at that super high power level, or at least if you're not playing super fast, when someone comes out that quick, it kind of usually balances out because everyone's just like, we're coming at you right away.
Well, there was that. I think it was Command Zone years ago. Did that little study with all the different casts that play online, and the turn 1 Soul Ring player is the one that ends up getting a disadvantage because most people go after him.
I oftentimes sandbag that turn 1 Soul Ring if I have one. I a lot of times don't drop it until turn 3.
Wait. Yeah, exactly. I don't have. No, I didn't have it first turn.
What a wonderful top deck here on turn 3. I guess I'll play my Soul Ring.
And I would say like the way that we've adjusted like the 4th player, like where it's drawing 8, 9, 9, 10.
We do see a lot of more turn 1 Soul
top
Rings.
or ring, like those will show up more often, like percentage wise. That is definitely something that's I'm like, oh, this is somebody.
It's
always, but it does create a better hand, like generally as well for people. Like just the games tend to probably maybe just like
they move
pick
faster
up a little bit
beginning.
faster.
Yeah, because there is normally either the turn 1 Soul Ring or the turn 2 Arcane Signet. Some sort of mono rock. Everybody by turn 2 has something out, and so it tends to really pick up quite a bit. Okay, so
I got a question for Dana. How are you so good at Twitter?
Define good. I mean, I definitely piss people off on occasion. That's fun. That's what you're asking. I'm maybe not as careful as I should be at times.
Is that what it is? We need to piss off more people. That's what. All right.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, there are absolutely times I could have phrased that in a way that was a little bit less inflammatory. There are times I intentionally phrase things in an inflammatory way too. Like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. That is occasionally something I do.
We get more action on YouTube interactions than we do on Twitter. Just from
rough.
comments, we like.
I
post
think we're
stuff
out of
and
the
there's
algorithm.
nothing.
It's dangerous. You screw up too badly though. I mean,
it comes back to screenshot. Look what Dana Roach said. I can't believe he said that.
I mean, Reddit's the same way. Reddit's dangerous ground to tread as well.
Yeah, we haven't
even been on that.
We haven't even been on that.
I'm afraid there's so many people there.
EDH Rec articles, a lot of times you'll go post a link on Reddit. You're like, what I've found for Reddit is if I get a couple of my friends to like just throw a random comment that's like at least semi-positive out there, the rest of the comments tend to be positive, because if you let somebody post something negative first, everyone, like the blood in the water, they can smell it.
Well, why don't you plug all your spot? I know you already said the EDH Rec cast, your CMDR Central. How do people find you? Like where Twitter, all that stuff.
I'm pretty easy to find on Twitter. I'm at Dana Roach. I didn't think to come up with a clever name. I'm just, years ago I was like, I just use my name. That's what I do.
Yeah, that works.
And Don Miner, who runs EDH Rec at one point, is like, is that like a made up name or something? And I'm like, what kind of person would pick Dana Roach for their cool made up author name? That's my real name.
Yeah.
I think I'm the worst person in the world at coming up with fake names.
Maybe you made it up when Papa Roach was really big.
I guess,
back then.
right? Yeah, could have been, yeah.
And then you said you write articles too for EDH Rec then.
So I write for EDH Rec and I write for Commander's Herald about once a month. Actually, at this point, I write an article I submitted and they just use it for whenever someone else is late with an article. So I don't have a publishing schedule. I just submit one a month and they're like, it's going to come out at some point whenever someone else is late. So that's
nice.
That's my schedule there.
Very nice. What? One quick question: when you got into, because was CMDR Central the first one? That was your first cast, right?
It was.
That's when you guys started.
That was, man. We're like 6 years.
How did you guys
in,
get started with that?
We were the shop I played at then was real close to where I worked, like a block away, and there was a pizza joint in between the shop and where I worked, and I had that coworker I played with. So like him and I started stopping and getting dinner quick after work. And then after we got to know some guys in the shop and they knew we were stopping to eat, they'd just meet us there. So like we would stop and have, a couple beers and pizza before we'd go play. And we just talk Commander the whole time. Like you do when you're about to go play Commander for the night and you've had a couple beers. And at some point someone's like, this would make for a good podcast. And I'm like, well, maybe it would. Because back then, like, here was our conversation, right? We're talking about doing a podcast for CMDR Central. I'm like, well, we've got a pretty good shot at being the fourth best Commander podcast because there's only 3 of them.
Yeah. What is a podcast?
There was
point?
Commander's Brew, and there was Commander Inn, and there was Command Zone, basically.
Yeah.
There's probably somebody else, but like those were the 3 basic at the time. So we started recording, and about then is when Legendary Creature started, and the Brothers War, which is now Commander Social, roughly the same time, and up in Canada, the Commander Cookout guys started about the same time. So like all 4 of us roughly got the same idea. Let's be the 4th best Commander podcast. But there's only 3 of them. So that's where that came from.
We had that same idea, but we were like, can we be the 9th best?
Right. Sure.
You mean
and
19th.
then there was.
So
now we're 20.
So we were doing that just for like the fun of it. Like, well, someone mentioned that, so let's start doing that. And then because I was doing that show, I'm like, well, I use EDH Rec all the time when they're hiring writers. Maybe I will write an article once a month or twice a month or something that will give me some more eyeballs on Commander Central.
Yeah.
And then EDH Rec was like, at some point we should do our own show. So like all the writers kind of did a tryout process for that, and I was one of the ones that was picked to do that show.
Nice.
So,
yeah, that one's really, you guys are clean cut with that whole thing. That one's, the visuals and everything is really nice.
They handle that very professionally. Yeah,
that's very
but
nice.
Joey, that's a real company that like they have professional full-time employees there at EDH Rec. So
yeah, and then oh man, my video just froze. Look at that.
Yeah, you did. Well, I mean, we have been going for over an hour.
Very true. Yes.
Hour 19. So
what is going on?
This is better anyway.
You can still hear my voice though. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Dana, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely will have you back.
For sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you have the same hate for counterspells as we do.
Yeah, that's Bond. No, that's
exactly. And hey, let's once this winter gets past and hopefully COVID maybe dies down, I'll take a trip over. We'll play some games some Saturday or something.
For sure.
When
we can do our best.
Yeah, for sure. Or we can even make it over to you at some point too. That'd be great.
We will figure something out for sure. I definitely want to do that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Dana.
Thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, that was episode 200.
You stepped on. That's what I was going to do. All right, pre-recording and stuff like that. We hope you enjoyed. We understand that this is already really long, so we're going to cut it short real quick. Thanks so much for listening. That's distracting. That's very distracting.
That's Gwen's fault.
Thanks, Gwen. We had a very professional podcast.
And then hello boobies came in.
Hello boobies.
Thank you.
There we go.
All right. Well, that should do it for this week. We will catch you guys next week on a little short rendition of 201. It's Christmas special next week. So we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.
Saga.
Perhaps play a little game.
Oh, damn it. I'm on the run.
200 episodes and we still don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Boobs, I'm talking tatas. I love boobs, I'm bonkers for honkers. I love boobs, thanks for the memories. I love
boobs. I'm glad I went to the right camera.
Yeah.